DMD, ADHD, and anxiety. Oh my! If these letters feel like your everyday life and you're constantly trying to decode what's really going on behind your child's big emotions, then this episode is for you. We're breaking down what's actually fueling those emotional explosions, how those diagnoses often overlap, and why your go-to parenting responses might not be working through no fault of your own. Plus, I'll walk you through some strategies that will. Grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's go. Welcome to Calm Connection Parenting, where we buckle up for the emotional roller coaster of raising intense and highly sensitive kids and discover some amazing things along the way. I'm your host, Jamie Kirkbride, a mom of 7, parenting coach, professional counselor, and your guide through the wild world of meltdowns, challenging behaviors, and big emotions. If you're exhausted and overwhelmed, feeling like you're always one step away from chaos, searching for a little calm in your day, then you're in the right place. Here, you'll find practical tools and faith-based strategies to transform your family. Together, we'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll figure out how to turn those messy meltdowns into moments of connection. Let's jump in. Let's start with this. If you're dealing with frequent meltdowns, explosive behaviors, or emotional outbursts that seem to come out of nowhere, you're not alone. And more importantly, there's a reason this is happening. Actually, there may be several reasons. You might have a child who's been diagnosed with ADHD, or maybe you're navigating anxiety that shows up more like anger than worry. Or maybe you've heard the term DMDD and thought, what even is that? Well, don't worry, we're going to unpack all of those today. But here's the truth. What often looks like bad behavior on the surface is usually a signal of distress or a struggle going on underneath. And more importantly, it's communication. It's a nervous system that's in overdrive. And it's often a combination of things, not just one struggle or a simple diagnosis. Let's talk about these 3 diagnoses that often get blamed and unfortunately misunderstood when a child is melting down. DMDD, or disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, is a diagnosis that's not as well known, but when you live with it, you don't forget it. Kids with DMDD aren't just irritable, they have extreme and chronic irritability and frequent temper outbursts that are intense and often explosive. And these outbursts don't just happen occasionally. They tend to happen 3 or more times per week, and the mood between these outbursts is persistently irritable and sometimes even viewed as angry, and often for months on end. Now, this isn't just a bad day or just a child misbehaving. This is a brain-based difference in how the child processes frustration, disappointment, overstimulation, and more. Their emotional thermostat is much more sensitive. Their dial goes from calm to chaos much faster and stronger. And if you've seen that kind of emotional dysregulation shift in your home, you know how heartbreaking and exhausting it can be. This child may not even remember what they said or what they did during these intense times of emotional dysregulation. ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is more commonly recognized, but what a lot of people don't realize is that emotional dysregulation is part of the package. It's not just about focus or hyperactivity and movement. It's about impulsivity, frustration tolerance, and poor emotional breaks. Think of it like this. Kids with ADHD feel things fast, big, and all at once, and they often react before they even have had a chance to process what's going on. They can mean they explode when they're told no. It could mean that they melt down when transitions happen too quickly, or lash out when they're feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated. And here's the kicker. What works for other kids, like maybe a simple reminder or a small consequence, might just pour gasoline on the fire with the child who has ADHD. Now, anxiety is tricky because it doesn't always look like fear or worry or stress. In fact, in kids, especially emotionally intense or highly sensitive ones, anxiety often shows up as avoidance, attempting to control things, and anger. Here's what I mean. Your child refuses to go into the classroom. That might not be defiance. It might be anxiety about what they experience in the course of their day in there or an activity that takes place there. Maybe they scream when asked to try something new. That might not be willfulness. It might be fear of failure or feeling overwhelmed with trying something that they fear may be too hard. Maybe they're yelling and melting down when the schedule for your day changes. That's likely their need for predictability, and they've realized it's been disrupted. Their brain is going into fight or flight because the unknown or the unpredictable are triggers for their brain. Anxiety can make a child feel unsafe in a world that already feels so out of control. And when they don't have the tools or words to express that fear, it can come out sideways looking pretty ugly, yelling, crying, hitting, breaking things, and even shutting down. Now, here's where it gets really tricky for parents like you. Many kids who struggle with meltdowns or this emotional dysregulation don't have just one thing going on. They might have ADHD and anxiety, or DMDD and sensory processing difficulties that ramp up their anxiety. It may be that they have DMDD, ADHD, and anxiety. These diagnoses and challenges often overlap, which means your child may be navigating multiple layers of struggle at once. And what looks like just a meltdown or a behavior issue is actually a dysregulated nervous system calling out for help. I like the way I heard it explained. Behavior is the fire alarm, not the fire. We see the flames and we try to put them out, but unless we go deeper and find the wiring underneath or behind the wall of behavior, we'll keep dealing with the same explosions again and again. Now, if you've been reacting to the behavior and feeling defeated when nothing changes, you're not failing. You're responding to what's visible. But now that we've peeked behind that wall, you can start responding to what's actually causing the behavior. And that's where things can really start to shift. Let's be honest for a second. When our kids are melting down, screaming, throwing things, breaking things, flat out refusing to move, our first instinct is usually not connection. It's correction. It's trying to get control. It's thinking of consequences that will stop the behavior the quickest. Because that's what we've been taught. That's what feels logical. That's what we hope will stop the chaos. And oftentimes, if we're honest, we think that those watching it unfold might expect us to do that. And let me just say, there is no shame here. I've been that mom. I've raised 7 kids. I've been in the stands at a basketball game praying my kid could just hold it together a little bit longer so we wouldn't make a scene or be embarrassed. I've tried being stricter. I've tried being more consistent. I've tried reward charts, consequences, and everything in between. But here's the truth I learned. And yes, sometimes the hard way. When a child is emotionally dysregulated, logic won't work. Discipline doesn't teach in that intense moment. And even the calmest consequence can serve as yet another trigger. Why? Well, because a dysregulated child is operating from their survival brain, not their thinking brain. They're flooded with emotion. Their body is in fight, flight, freeze, or even fawn. And in that moment, They're not choosing their behavior. They're simply trying to survive. Well, there are some common responses that I can tell you will backfire. So let's break down a few of the well-meaning but unhelpful or ineffective responses we often give a try. Number one, we try to tell them, calm down. Now, it sounds reasonable, but to a dysregulated child, it's a demand they can't meet. And I can almost assure you it will ramp up their intensity. Number two, you might say something like, now that's enough, or you're being ridiculous. Well, these messages simply invalidate what your child is feeling. Even if their reaction seems over the top, those big emotions are real to them. Number three, taking away things that they care about, like saying, that's it, stop now, or I'm going to take away your computer time, or you won't be able to go to whatever it was they were hoping to go to. When a meltdown is the result of sensory overload or anxiety, this doesn't feel like a consequence. It feels like punishment for being overwhelmed or stressed. It doesn't teach them anything. Number four, leaving them alone to figure it out. Now, while some space is needed for certain kids, others may feel abandoned and unsafe being alone, especially when their emotions feel so out of control. So, what do we do? Well, the more often these approaches are used, the more your child learns that their big emotions lead to disconnection, that they're too much for other people when they're struggling. And that's heartbreaking when you think of it that way for you and for them. It might be helpful to think of it this way. Instead of being the one to carefully attempt to defuse the bomb, we sometimes unintentionally become the spark that lights the fuse and leads to the bigger boom. We react out of fear, frustration, exhaustion, because we care so deeply and we want to fix it. But what our child often needs isn't fixing. It's feeling understood or supported. It's someone who can stay steady while they fall apart. It's a parent who can model what calm looks like, even in the middle of the scary emotional storm. I want to share this little story. Several years ago, our son was struggling with significant medical anxiety, and blood draws were a major trigger for him. Now, I'm not talking about mild nerves. I'm talking about big emotions, panic, and a strong need to avoid what felt overwhelmingly difficult. To the point where he would try to bolt and run when we got to the doctor's office, and I was worried about him with traffic. Now, at one point, we had a blood draw planned for later in the week. But while we were out running errands and near the lab, I thought, why don't we just get it done now? Get it done and over with, right? So I suggested we change the plan. Oh my. Immediately, he went into a full-blown meltdown. It wasn't defiance, it was distress. I will admit my first instinct, like many parents, was just to explain the situation. I wanted to tell him how far we lived from the lab, how packed our schedule was later in the week, and how this made the most sense logistically, like it just made sense when we were right here. But I could see in that moment, logic wasn't going to work. So I paused. I took a breath, and I chose connection instead of control. I said gently, "This seems to really upset you." "Yes!" he screamed, and he banged his fist down against the car seat. His world was spinning, and I could see how fast things suddenly felt out of control for him. I followed up. "Does it feel too hard to shift plans today?" "Yes!" he shouted again, now pounding his leg with his fist. Tears welled up in his eyes. So I said, "That's okay. Let's not do it today." He sheepishly looked up at me, and tears came pouring down his cheeks. I softened even a little more. "I understand. I changed what your brain had already decided was happening a different day. And today, it's just too much, isn't it?" He nodded silently as the tears still crept down his cheek, but also he was starting to settle. Then I added something important. Some days it feels too hard to make a shift, and that's okay. Some days it's not a big deal. It's always okay to tell me. And I promise you, I will listen. I turned the car around, choosing to wait. About 5 or 10 minutes later into our drive, I hear this quiet voice from the back seat. It's okay. I'll try to do it today if I have to." I smiled and replied, "No, sweetie, you told me it feels too hard today, and that matters. I want you to tell me when something feels like too much, and I want you to know I will listen." That moment, it built trust. It gave him language for his struggle. It reinforced that his voice mattered. And maybe most importantly, it deepened our connection. We drove on, but before we got home, I revisited it again with him. I said, we're really a good team, and we'll keep working together to do hard things. I always want you to feel like you can tell me what's going on and what you need. That's part of being a good team. And here's the best part. Just a few days later, we were able to come back to that phrase when we were struggling, and I gently asked, "Is this one of those times where it feels too hard for your brain to shift?" And he said, "Yes, it is. No meltdown, no shouting, no extreme emotions, just a calm, clear answer. And this brand new dialogue that actually worked. We had forged a new understanding. And more importantly, we had created a language for those hard moments that used to spin so quickly out of control." Now, if this segment stirred up a little guilt, I want you to know that awareness is the first step to change. This isn't about blame. It's about building a new toolbox, because chances are parenting this child isn't like parenting your other children. You probably need tools you've never heard about. And that's what I discovered. But that moment in the car reminded me of something I now teach all the time. When a child feels safe enough to say, "This is too hard," and we respond with empathy instead of more demand or urgency, we're not giving in. We're choosing to give them skills. We are helping them learn to use their words instead of behaviors or extreme emotions. Emotional regulation doesn't start with a perfectly timed coping tool. It starts with feeling seen, heard, understood, and safe. And when we slow down long enough to pause instead of push, we open the door for connection and eventually cooperation. It really does work that way, and it can be so surprising. Now, in the next segment, I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like in action. What actually helps in those intense moments, what you can say, what you can do, and how to be the steady, confident presence your child needs, even when their emotions are running high. Now, I want to be honest, I spent a few years responding in ways that unfortunately triggered my child. They were ineffective, and even in ways that I feel embarrassed of now. But I had to decide to do things differently. I had to take the time to learn new skills, Yes, even as somebody who was a licensed professional counselor, even as somebody who had mothered several children. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not sure I can figure out how to do this. And I don't even know the right words to say in those moments. Well, let me tell you, a lot of parents feel that same way. And that's why I do what I do. It's actually why I wrote and created the Calm Connection Parent Coaching Program. And it's a great place to learn those strategies that work. I'd like to share this. Are your child's emotions and challenging behaviors pushing you to the edge? You're not alone. From constant struggles to emotional outbursts, it's easy to feel like you're just one step away from chaos. But what if I told you there's a better way? In the Calm Connection program, you'll get access to a video course, workbooks, and a supportive community to learn practical, faith-based strategies for handling even the toughest of behaviors. But the best part, you get weekly coaching calls with me, where we can explore your child or family's specific struggles and work together for some solutions. If you're tired of trying methods that just don't work, or you feel like you don't have time to add one more thing to your plate, don't worry. This program was designed to fit into a busy parent's life and give you real solutions with some quick wins too. Ready to take the first step toward a calmer home? Visit calmconnectionparent.com and learn more about the Calm Connection Coaching Program. You've got this, and I'm here to support you. That's right. I am here to support you, and I would love the chance to work with you as you learn effective tools and strategies to help your child regulate their emotions and learn new skills to get their needs met. So check the show notes for links to book a call with me. Some great bonuses, including 2 specific guides to help you advocate for your child, navigate the SPED journey, and help your family understand your child's struggles, needs, and their really good heart. So visit calmconnectionparent.com to learn more about this coaching program and all that it includes. Now, in this next segment, I'm going to walk you through some of the most effective ways to respond, regulate, and reconnect, even in the messiest, ugliest moments. So grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's keep going. We're going to talk about something that will actually work. We're going to bring this all together. You've just heard how a small shift in the middle of a big meltdown can change everything. That blood test story wasn't about fixing his behavior. It was about creating a moment of connection and trust in the middle of some emotional chaos. So how do we do more of that? Well, let me introduce you to something I teach inside the Calm Connection Parent Coaching Program. It's a simple but powerful framework that you can use in real life, in real messy and real ugly moments. It's a portion of the I Heart approach. And today we're focusing on the HEAR, the HEAR portion. H stands for hear. Start by hearing what's underneath your child's behavior. Not just the words or the volume of the shouting, but the emotion behind it. You might say to yourself, this isn't about the socks being the wrong color. This is about something more. What's the message behind this meltdown? When we pause to hear the need, not just the noise, we step into compassion instead of control. And that softens everything. You don't have to solve it right away. Just tune in. E is for empathize. Let your child know their emotions are valid, even if the behavior isn't okay. So don't focus on the behavior at this point. Just say things like, this feels really hard, doesn't it? I know this isn't what you expected. Or, I get it, you weren't ready for this change. Empathy doesn't mean you have to agree with your child. Empathy means acknowledging and understanding. And when kids feel seen and understood in their struggle, their nervous systems can begin to settle. And only when their systems begin to settle can you start to communicate and get anywhere. So remember this, as meltdowns decrease when the connection increases. I'm going to say that again. Meltdowns decrease when connection increases. A is for adjust. Now that you've heard and empathized, ask yourself, is there anything I need to adjust to right now to make this feel safer, more predictable, or more doable for my child? Maybe it means something as simple as giving a 5-minute warning before a transition. Maybe it means offering 2 simple choices instead of 1 demand. Maybe it means delaying something that feels too overwhelming until your child feels more regulated. Maybe it means stepping in and doing some body doubling. In other words, doing a task alongside your child to make it feel a little bit easier. You're not giving in. You're modeling flexibility. And you're helping your child feel like they have a voice and some appropriate control. And these things build trust and cooperation over time. R is for respond. Now this one's big. How you respond matters, maybe more than anything else, because your child's nervous system takes cues from you. If you stay calm, it signals safety. If you escalate, it signals threat. So I encourage you, choose to respond with a deep breath, a calm tone, and a steady, confident presence. Now, even if on the inside you're doubting if you can really handle this moment or their intense emotions, I challenge you to come across with that steady, confident presence. What do they say? Fake it till you make it. You can do this. You don't have to say the perfect thing. You just have to be the calm that they can anchor to. Even if the meltdown doesn't stop immediately, you're teaching something very powerful. Your big feelings don't scare me. I'm here. I can handle it, and we can do hard things together. Now, the I Heart framework taught in the coaching program helps you not just manage meltdowns, but helps you build skills. Emotional intelligence, self-awareness, trust, resilience, and ultimately, it builds a meaningful connection. And if you're thinking, this sounds amazing, but I'm not sure I can pull it off when everything's falling apart, well, I want you to know you're not the first parent that's felt that. You're not alone. That's exactly why I created this coaching program, to walk you through frameworks just like this, to help you apply them in your real life situations and give you the support you need so that you can feel calm, confident, and connected in your parenting. You can visit calmconnectionparent.com or check the show notes to book a free call with me and see if the program is the right fit for you, your child, and your family. And don't forget, when you join, you'll get access to those amazing bonuses, including those special guides to help you advocate for your child and build understanding with other family members. Because I know that can be so tough when you feel like even your own family doesn't really understand your child. So here's what I want to leave you with today. When your child is melting down, it's not a parenting failure. It's a window into something deeper. And when we pause long enough to hear, 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 empathize, adjust, and respond, we give our child the greatest gift, the feeling that they're safe, understood, and not alone in those really big, intense emotions. I want you to remember, you've got this. And I'm here to walk with you every step of the way. Well, that's it for today. But the journey to calm parenting doesn't stop here. If you are nodding in agreement, laughing, or maybe even crying, don't worry, we've all been there. Make sure to share this podcast with a friend who might need it too. Don't forget to connect with us at parentingwithpersonality.com or join our Parenting with Personality Facebook group. I'd love to support you there. And until next time, you've got this. Just keep calm and parent on.